Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Today we had the very unfortunate news of bomb threats at over 30 U.S. schools. We see bomb threats were made against more than 24 schools in New Jersey on Tuesday and also against schools in Massachusetts, Delaware, and Iowa, forcing evacuations and lockdowns that affected thousands of students. The threats, made in a robotic voice, appeared to come from a computer-generated phone number that could be traced back to a location in Bakersfield, California, sheriffs said. Police said on Twitter they did not regard the attack as credible, but the evacuation was carried out anyway as a precaution. And we see this more and more. It was just a few weeks ago, I believe, we saw the threats in New York and also in California. New York decided to continue on with the school day. California took the precautions of canceling school for the day. And I can't really blame the schools, you know, when you have a situation like that, especially as we see attacks happening in our recent country history. I can't blame the schools for shutting down, but I'm not exactly sure what can be done to remedy the situation because, yes, you care for the students, but are you going to shut down the schools every time somebody calls in, even if you don't think it's a credible threat? It's not a easy situation to solve, and hopefully they'll catch the guys who are behind this situation. Now, today we saw a very interesting story by Kurt Nimmo about the situation in Libya. He brought out a lot of things I didn't know. I guess it came from the Clinton email scandal. Here's a look at Libya was invaded to prevent Pan-African currency.
He called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold. The UK has double that, but 10 times the population.
Now, on our show here, we've had many financial experts, people who study the economy, Max Kaiser, Gerald Celente, Harry Dent. And many of them talk about the IMF and the World Bank. And now we have the article, IMF cuts world growth forecast for third time. The International Monetary Fund has slashed its growth forecast for the global economy for the third time in less than a year as it predicted a bumpier ride for 2016. A sharp slowdown of trade in China and a slump in commodity prices, such as oil and metals, were cited as key reasons for the gloomy outlook. The IMF expects the world economy to grow by 3.4% this year and 3.6% in 2017, both figures 0.2 percentage points lower than its previous estimates made last October. Yeah, and as we were just talking about Gaddafi, you know, you can say what you want about the guy. I'm not cheerleading for the guy by any means, but he was trying to get his country on a stable gold standard because we see, like, for example, here in the United States, we were taken off the gold standard. We have the Federal Reserve that is continually devaluing our currency. And there's a movie that we sell in the Infowars shop, The American Dream. It's a cartoon that explains the history of the Federal Reserve and why our dollar continues to be devaluated. Anyway, there's a point in the film where the guy, he asked the other guy, he's like, do you even understand what money is? And then they explain it to you. Back in, you know, ancient times, and I guess until we got off the gold standard, a dollar bill or, you know, whatever denomination you used was basically a representation of the money you have in the bank. So instead of walking around with big gold bars or, you know, gold coins in your pocket, you'd have the dollar bill that represents the money that you already have. That's what money is. But when you go off a gold standard, then your money is pretty much backed up by nothing, or at least something that's much less valuable. Like I said, talking about Gaddafi, you know, you can say what you want about the guy. I'm not cheerleading, but, you know, he was trying to get the country back on a stable currency. But as we see countries all around the world to get further and further away from this, from real currency, then you have the issues where your dollars can be devaluated, or you have other things that can come in and knock down your economy. And as we continue on that, we have budget deficit to rise by $544 billion this year. A government report released Tuesday estimates that this year's budget deficit will rise $544 billion, an increase over prior estimates that can be attributed largely to tax cuts and spending increases passed by Congress last month. The deficit and debt picture over the long term has also worsened considerably. Much of the increase is mostly due to last month's legislation, which permanently extended several tax cuts that Congress had previously renewed temporarily. And as we're talking about taxes, let's talk about one Bernie Sanders. Now, I'm very interested in why so many adults are captivated by Bernie Sanders. I can understand young people thinking the guy is very interesting, and if I was in high school, I might like Bernie Sanders too. But, you know, as you become an adult, you go through high school, you maybe go through college or military, whatever, and you emerge, and I'm getting close to 30 now. People in their 30s, 40s, 50s who endorse Bernie Sanders make me scratch my head. Because, yes, the guy is promising to give you free this, free that, free everything, but you have to understand, you know, college kids, high school kids, they don't have that much work experience. But once you enter the workforce and you look at your check and you look at all the taxes that they take out of it, and you see people say, I want free stuff, I want everything free. I'm like, even if it's free for you, I have to pay for it. Example, I can give a homeless man $1, and even though it's free to him, I had to work for it and eventually pay it to him. But I'm okay with that because I chose to give him that money. But when I see people saying, I want free abortions at Planned Parenthood, I was like, I don't work so you can go have your abortion free at Planned Parenthood. That's not what I'm about. And all you high school kids and college kids, you may not understand this right now, but once you start paying your taxes on the job you have, hopefully you get a career one day and not just saddled down by a whole bunch of debt. Once you look at your paycheck, you're like, oh my goodness, they take all these thousands of dollars out of my check. Remember, that's to go to pay for the free stuff. The free stuff that other people get, they take out of your money. You're just like, well, I thought it was free. No, it's not free. It's just free for them. But it's okay because it's going to come back and bite them in the butt later, too. So when you're, 40 years old, whatever, you're going to be paying for somebody's free goodies at the colleges or whatever else. Here's the list of Bernie Sanders' $19.6 trillion tax hike. Taken together, Sanders is proposing $19.6 trillion in new taxes over a decade, according to an analysis by the Washington Examiner, of which $14 trillion would come from his health care plan alone. And if you go to the site, we have a nice little graphic there that you can look at, and you can see business health care premium tax, $6.3 trillion, ending tax-free status of employer health insurance, $3.1 trillion. One of my favorite one, the death tax hike, $243 billion, ending tax deductions, $150 billion, energy tax, $135 billion, carried interest, Social Security tax, $1.2 trillion. It just goes on and on and on and on. So like I was telling you earlier, just because it's free for somebody else doesn't mean that it's going to be free for you. And as we see things like Social Security and all that stuff, the people who paid into it, probably should get something out of it. But, if you're 19, 20 years old right now, don't expect Social Security to be there for you when you become of age. I saw the 60 Minutes report a few years ago. I can't remember where it was, but it was some small town. And basically, they had this retired firefighter that they were profiling. The guy worked, 20, 30 years in the fire department, whatever. And now he's working as a security guard at the local shopping mall. And he has to do this because the town, or I guess more specifically the mayor, refuses to pay out benefits to, the firefighters, the cops, whoever else who had been working for the city, for the county for so many years. And it's very interesting to me that if the mayor takes that position that he's not going to pay people on the back end, I think the mayor shouldn't be paid on the front end. Say, okay, you're going to work for free, and eventually down the line, we may give you some type of retirement check. But it's very wrong, and it continues to happen. And so you guys keep this in mind, because I remember I worked for the county back in Oklahoma at one point, and they were like, hey, do you want to pay into the retirement plan? I was like, no, everybody who's worked here 20, 30 years, I hope you get your retirement check, but I'm not really expecting that for myself. So, I'd rather just save that money and actually save it. Don't keep it and go spend it, but save it and put it in some type of fund or savings account for you to be used later on. Now let's talk about Jeb Bush. He's a very interesting guy. He comes from the Bush family. Let the Bin Laden fly out on 9/11 before Osama was listed as an official suspect. Wars in Iraq, Iran-Contra, all that good stuff. And now people are starting to get the taste in their mouth, but maybe they don't want another Bush in the White House. But you wouldn't know that from the GOP. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat either, for that matter. I'm an independent. I don't want to push any political party. If I see something wrong in the Democratic Party, I say so. If I see something wrong in the Republican Party, I say so as well. And this is something that's wrong as far as the way things are being run. GOP elites blow $65 million on Jeb Bush and his failed campaign. Roll Call reported Right to Rise raised $103 million in 2015 and has spent more than $65 million so far. But 9 months after he got into the race, Jeb has collapsed from first to a tie for worst and is now polling at less than 5% nationally. But that's not going to stop them from throwing tons of money into the Bush campaign. He says My name is Jeb, ! And I earned that. The people of Florida love me. They trust me. We have the recount in Florida so my brother could become president of the United States. A lot of people aren't really buying it. Now, it's not saying let's not elect Jeb Bush and go elect a Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. I'm not saying that one bit. But I like how they knock down the numbers here and they show all the things that the Republican Party could have bought for that $103 million. And they have a nice list here on the site. They said they could have bought 20 million children's books for the kids of the Barbara Bush Foundation, sent 22,000 4-year-olds to preschool for a year, covered a year's tuition for 10,000 college students, or paid for a year of drug treatment for 700,000 children in Africa. So this is what the Republican Party is spending their money on. Not to say that the Democratic Party is any better for that reason. You know, like I said, I see something wrong over here, I say so. If I see something wrong over there, I say so as well. But, you know, they're like shoving these people down your throat. You have to vote for Jeb. You have to vote for Hillary or Bernie Sanders. You know, and I don't really like any of them, to be quite honest with you. I like Rand. You know, Rand's not a perfect guy. He did some stuff endorsing Mitt Romney years back that I'm not a fan of. But other than that, he has a pretty consistent record. But I'd definitely take him more than anybody else on either side of the card. Also, you got libertarians like Gary Johnson coming up in the ranks. Interested to see what he has to say. I haven't kept up with Gary in a few years, so I'd have to, you know, refresh myself on his policies and stances and platforms. But be interested to hear what he has to say.
Shane Steiner's involvement with InfowarsLife.com truly happened in an organic way. I went to high school with Shane, his brother, knew his parents well, and he was visiting the office once, hadn't been to the office in years, and said, wow, I notice you're making and selling supplements. Do these really work? Because I've tried a lot of supplements as a workout enthusiast, and I really think most of them are hype. And I said, here, take some home, try it. Well, a few weeks later, he came in blown away and said, I want to buy 3 boxes of this stuff to give my friends and family. It's simply amazing. He said, why does it work so well? And I said, listen, go to InfowarsLife.com, watch the informational videos with Dr. Group and others. They understand how it all works. I know that it works for me. That's all I understand. The science, the facts, the research, people's testimonials, they're all on InfowarsLife.com. You can check it out for yourself.
I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to push myself and work out harder. And that led to me being able to come out and do stuff like the barefooting and the surfing and stuff like that, which I've never done. I never would have done that 2 years ago.
Shane has said over and over again, more than just libido and energy, it made him want to get into the gym more. It made him want to get in better shape. And believe me, the Steiners have amazing genetics. His brother is a world champion steer wrestler. His dad, Bobby Steiner, is a famous world champion bull rider. They've got natural genetics. But when you added this to the mix, in Shane's own words, it took him to the next level. Shane noticed the mental clarity. Bobby was able to work out longer and gain muscle mass. He's already completely shredded. I gotta admit, for me, the biggest effect has been libido. Now, I've never claimed to have a body like some beach model, but back when I was 20, 22 years old and worked out every day, I looked great. But over the years, and being married, having 3 kids, and working 18 hours a day, I gained basically 100 pounds. And it's been a long process losing that weight in the last 4 years. But if you look at the photos and the videos of what I looked like 4 or 5 years ago versus today, the results are dramatic. I'd already cleaned up my diet, I was working out hard, but I'd only lost about 20 pounds. It was adding the other key ingredients from InfowarsLife.com that helped me personally go to the next level and shed another 35 pounds.
This has actually made me feel so good that here lately, about a year ago, I started training jiu-jitsu, and that kind of led to doing some boxing and kickboxing. I mean, it's amazing that 2 years ago, I was on the couch and couldn't even tie my shoes, and now I'm training with MMA fighters and just doing stuff that I never thought that I would be doing ever again. So Super Male Vitality has allowed me to do some amazing things, and if it has those kind of effects for me, I know that it will do great things for you. So just try Super Male Vitality. I promise you, you'll love it.
And finally, let's look at Anthony Gucciardi, Infowars.com reporter. He also works with Dr. Group and others, helping develop the newest, most cutting-edge, high-quality supplements. Let's take a look at what happened when he tried to barefoot ski for the first time with the Steiners. And remember, we're not making fun of him. He had the will to get in the arena, and he's lost more than 10 pounds in the last few years of fat and gained more than 10 pounds of muscle. And Anthony chalks it up to super male vitality as well. Bottom line, folks, you want to discover the power of super male vitality and super female vitality for yourself by visiting InfoWarsLife.com today or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.